should guys be building attraction or assuming attraction?
They shouldn't be doing any of that shit because they do it for a bitch, so they already fail. Anything you do for a woman, you fail. So you shouldn't be doing anything for a woman, man, at all. So if you're building attraction, that means that woman has more power over you because you're doing something for somebody you don't even know. And that's weak and that's soft. But Karen, go ahead and tell me you disagree. I'm waiting. Go ahead.
No, I actually agree with you 100%.
Okay.
Now, if you realize there's nuance to my points, bro, I agree with you. You're right.
Right. So
All
yeah,
right then.
I think a man should. I mean, if he is building attraction, if that's the term that we're using based on the question, building attraction meaning that he's building attraction for himself in his own life. So that means he has a plan. He has there's a difference between just going to a country and just letting things happen, and or there's another thing where you do your research and you build an itinerary. Like, so day one I want to visit the thing, day two I want to go to the Eiffel Tower, day three I want to visit this restaurant, day four I want to try this food. And then so you have your agenda. You understand? You have the thing. See, there's a difference between living by default and living by design. You understand what I'm saying? So the man that lives by design, that is him, like, to me, constructing the experience that he wants to have in his life. And I think that in itself is what makes a man attractive. A man enjoying his life, enjoying himself, enjoying who he is as a person, enjoying the experience that he's having on this planet. That's what makes him attractive. Because no one, man, woman, child, whatever, wants to spend time with a person that doesn't like their own life, or doesn't like themselves, or doesn't like the experience that they're having on this planet.
Yeah, I
I'll just
agree.
I'm surprised. I agree with that too.
I
With
was
that.
gonna say real quick is that I know the building attraction thing is like more of a PUA term, like a pickup
Yeah,
artist term, where
that's what I was
it's
gonna
like
say.
well, try to get the girl to be attractive to you by you doing these things. And then assuming attraction is essentially kind of like the same kind of PUA term of like, assuming that the woman is going to be attracted to you. But the thing is, if you are an attractive man, right, you're going to attract. So a lot of times what happens is some of these terms puts men in a position where, and this is what Steve was saying, where they're trying to do things in order to get the woman. So what I always tell you guys is this: men with game don't get women. You understand what I'm saying? We allow women to get us. So when you have game, you allow a woman to get you, meaning she has to prove to you that she's even worth your time. You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of guys, when they're trying to build attraction, they're like, what can I do to get her to like me? What can I do to get her to sleep with me? Right? When you have game, you're not trying to get her to do any of those things. You're sitting there evaluating her to say, okay, is she good enough to have my time, attention, dick, and so forth and so on? You see what I'm saying? So a lot of these things, a lot of guys don't realize that when you are doing these terms, and I use some of these terms too to get you guys to fucking pay attention, because I know this is the thing that triggers your mind. But what I'm saying with these terms is you have to understand that when you are doing certain things, you're saying something to yourself. You're saying, if I have to pass her shit test, that means I have to chase her to get her. If I have to build all this attraction, that means I have to do something in order for her to approve of me to get with her. You see what I'm saying? So you got to be careful about the things that you're thinking and saying to yourself when you're, interacting with these women in a dating game.
All right. So I'd like to add something to that because I agree. And something I realized about the PUA industry, the pickup industry, whatever the fuck we want to call it, is that it's basically set up by men who felt like they weren't worthy, they weren't good enough, they did not have what it took to get women. And they learned the techniques and strategies to enable them to fulfill that aim. But then that initial core of not being good enough, it's built into a lot of the methodology, or just like a lot of the terms that people use. So yeah, if you are building attraction, like the inherent assumption behind the PUA industry is basically this: you're an average man, or maybe even below average. You don't have what it takes to be like a real top tier man. You don't have what it takes to be a man of worth. And the best that you can do is learn some techniques that will allow you to trick a woman into believing that you're that guy, so that you can actually get her into bed. When
Right.
really the core is actually who you are as a human being. Do you, like one of the brothers just said, do you love the experience of being in your own skin? Like people talk about being comfortable in your own skin. Everyone uses that phrase, But it's like a few years ago, I realized how right that phrase actually is. Because people who aren't comfortable in their own skin actually aren't comfortable in their skin. They don't like the feeling of being themselves. And that is like the core thing that men need. But again, it's built into the PUA industry that you're not going to have it. And what you need to do is figure out tricks to con women into thinking you do.
Mm.
Very good point.
I'm glad you said it, not us.
Right, exactly. That's
Well,
exactly what we've been talking about.
I've been
There,
trying
we're
to
best friends
explain.
now.
There's
Yay.
there's nuance to my points. This is what I'm trying to explain. But
Right.
anyway, it's right. I like the fact that we've managed to lighten the mood. I like it. Right, let's go.
Hooray.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, yeah, those are like POA terms. It was interesting what Miles was saying because he mentioned building attraction is like a POA term intended to, just like when Marcus Wolf was debating Mr. Lucario, convincing her to like you, essentially, is one way you can phrase it. And then assuming attraction, oh no, just to go back to Miles's point, understanding building attraction in terms of building up your life in order to be attractive, not for the women, but for yourself. That makes a lot of sense. So that's an interesting way to think about it. Assuming attraction, I don't want to like nitpick terminology and stuff like that, but just vaguely to draw off this idea, assuming attraction is kind of emphasizing that when you're talking to a woman, you don't assume that you have to build attraction, but you just assume attraction. She's ever attracted or she's not. You're not bothered by that whether or not she is. But I think assuming attraction kind of makes sense for most, is more in line for most of you guys. But you'll have your own terminology for that, maybe. Would it be fair to say maybe you're not assuming cooperation, but you're looking for cooperation? I'm just not.
No,
Well, the thing
familiar
is,
with your
go ahead, Steve. I'll go.
teachings.
Yeah, we give women this weird thing that no one else does. We give them free will by honesty. That's it. We're gonna let her know what the fuck is going on, what is, and if you down, cool. If you not, who gives a fuck? We don't care. I mean, again, we just don't care. Again, when you get pussy thrown at you, just don't care. You just don't. So we don't assume, and a man should never assume or anything like that. He should just be honest with a woman, and this what these guys can't do. They can't be honest. We had someone today. We told him 3 simple steps, and he can't even do the simple steps because he doesn't even believe in himself to do the steps. But yet he's trying to get attraction. These guys are trying to get relationships, but they don't have one with themselves. They're trying to get attraction from women, but they're not attractive to themselves. So they're trying to get everything outside of themselves. But we teach them, you got to get that shit in yourself first before you can get it from her.
Because also, too, remember the terminology. Even when you say assume attraction, assume basically means to think of something to be the case without proof, right? So I don't have to assume that I'm black. You know what I'm saying? Like I know I'm black. Like I'm just using that as a simple example. So what happens is when you're saying assume attraction, what you're essentially saying is I'm kind of just thinking that I might be attractive. And what I'm saying is that when you have game, you know that you're attractive. You know that you're valuable. So you know that you are attractive, which means that you attract. So then I don't have to assume anything, or I don't have to build anything. The thing is the recognizing of who you are. That's the problem. A lot of guys don't recognize who you are. Like even the other day, I heard a video where a guy was like, being yourself is the worst advice ever. I'm like, no, that's actually the best advice ever. The problem is most guys are not being themselves. So they think the guy that they're being right now is themselves. It's not even themselves. Because that same guy, he sees a girl across the room. He says in his mind, listen, I'll fuck the shit out of her. But then when he musters up the courage to go over there, he says nothing about sex, nothing about fucking the shit out of her. He says everything else except for that. So is he being himself or is he not being himself? You see what I'm saying? So a lot of times what happens is that these guys out here, they don't realize that they're listening to things that's taking them actually farther and farther away from who the fuck they are, which is why they think they have to do goofy shit like pass her shit tests, assume attraction, all this other nonsense. And this is why these guys follow all this stuff, because if you actually knew that you were that guy, if you loved yourself, this would sound silly to you. You see what I'm saying? But unfortunately, too many of these guys, they don't really know who they are. So this is why they're running around in circles doing goofy shit.
So I agree with what you just said, and I think it's actually a brilliant point. Another thing I'll like to add to that is women don't make you happy. Like they don't. And I've said it countless times to clients over the years. It's like no matter how many you get, you always move the goalposts of what you feel like you need. I've got a client I was on the call with literally today. So when we started working together, this guy got absolutely nothing, like zero, zero. He hadn't had a day in like 3 years or so. Now he's basically saying to me, Kieran, how can I schedule in all of these girls? Now he's got too many, and now his problem is how he can fit it into his life. But the crazy thing is this, and I even explained this to him, his level of happiness hasn't actually changed. He's actually, even though the outer situation has changed, the way he feels about himself hasn't changed that much because women fundamentally aren't the thing that's actually going to create the happiness. What creates the happiness is you and the life that you're living and the purpose it is that you're moving towards. Whether that purpose is writing novels like myself, whether that purpose is pursuing a sport, building a business, or whether the purpose is just looking after your children, whatever it is that your purpose is that gives you a reason to get up in the morning, that's the thing that you actually go for. And to be honest, like the only real reason why we even need things like, PUA or this kind of stuff is we live in a world where men have lost their purpose so much that it's robbed them of the ability to actually attract women. But if we lived in a world where all men knew that they had value, then they would just basically see going out and acquiring women as just going to the faucet, as you guys say, to make yourself a glass of water. Fundamentally, women should never be the thing that you orient your life around. It's always got to be you, your own mission, and your own principles. And the crazy thing is this, when you do that, then all of a sudden you're more attractive because a woman sees the passion that you have for basketball or the passion that you have for looking after your daughter or whatever it is. And she wants to be around that energy because it's inherently just, it speaks great things about you. So yeah,
Right,
there we go.
exactly. That's that, and that's why we say the game ain't about women. But unfortunately, a lot of these guys they want to see the women I'm fucking. They want to see my receipts. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So they think they still worrying about women. So it is what it is.